Welcome to the BK Q&A. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my maestro of questions, Kyle JCRB Kraus.
We're here! Whee! Welcome to our new weekly format.
Indeed, indeed. First off, thank you everyone for your patience, your cooperation, your support when we took last week off to promote Black Lives Matter. We're getting back into the mix of things, but that does not mean the movement is over. If anything, it is gaining steam. So please continue to support your local resistance. Contact your senators, your governors, everyone in a position of power. Continue to push for change because it is much needed. And while you're at it, please, please, please be safe and look after one another.
That's right. So what have you been up to, Ian?
I am working stuff that I cannot talk about, of course. But cross your fingers for me, Kyle, because Shonen Jump is running a special contest for their 100th anniversary, and they are opening their doors to submissions from around the world. So I've got a couple of things I'm working on. I'm going to try to get those in by the September 1st deadline, and who knows? Maybe, just maybe, I'll be a Shonen Jump one day.
Wow. What? Hold on. Wait, 100 years? Like, legitimately 100 years? Wow.
I believe that's what the banner said. I'd have to go back and check.
I did not know they had been around for that long. Okay. Shows what I know. I am not very versed in a lot of that history of a lot of that stuff. So, news to me. Well, that's awesome, though. Hopefully, you're one of the ones who gets published in there. That would be awesome.
The competition is going to be stiff.
Yeah. Even
if it were just like Japan limited, but it's worldwide. So, I'm going to put him on nickel, take my chances. What about you, sir?
Well, I wish I had something good to report, but I'm not really a whole heck of a lot going on here, on my end. Still just, working on NGI and, all that good stuff. So things are happening, but, not a whole heck of a lot. I don't have any knowing smile things like you always do. So, but it's okay. I'm hanging out. I'm having fun. And, I guess that's really about it. I mean, I don't have anything else. I've been watching everything going on from afar. Like yes, do it, because I can't. So, good job, everybody else.
It's good because we are now moving things over to a faster, more streamlined format. Because we took a look at the analytics over the past 6 seasons and found rather conclusively, you guys just want the Q&A. We tried. We really did. We wanted to entertain you, but you don't care. You just want answers. So that's what the show's going to be now.
There's people who enjoy our discussions, and we're still going to have those on occasion. Don't worry. If you're a fan of those, we'll still have them. They're just going to be a bit more spaced out. But we're still going to keep the Q&A going, and we're going to have that more often. So
there will be regular BumbleKast for those beautiful, wonderful, good-smelling, highly educated people who enjoy those. But for everybody else, we're just going to do the Q&A.
Yep.
Along that line, I am slowly compiling a searchable spreadsheet of all the questions we have ever answered. I'm up to episode 75. And Kyle,
sorry for suggesting you do all the work.
No. I wanted a busybody project, and boy, howdy did I get it.
Yeah.
But now other stuff has kind of come along the way, I might invite you to contribute as well. But
okay.
Anyway, here's how the show's going to work now. We're going to do any basic updates on our end. Try to keep it kind of brief, announcements, promotions, that sort of thing. We're going to do our priority Q&A. We're going to do any patron ads if we have any. And then we'll move on to the standard Q&A, and we'll wrap it up. So there you have it. It's going to be Q&A all the time.
Yes, indeed. Are we ready to jump right in?
We are. Go for it. Let's get to the priority Q&A.
Well, first of all, we got to tell people how to ask their questions and all that stuff.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I guess. So if you want to ask us anything, email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com, on Twitter at BumbleKast, in the comments on just about any YouTube video. If you're a patron, you can post or message us on patreon.com/BumbleKast, or in the Q&A channel on the BumbleKast Discord. If you want to get priority in the queue of questions answered, you can become a $5 patron, again, at patreon.com/BumbleKast, or you can donate to us at Ko-fi, that's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. Again, $5. Just make sure you include your name and your question, because otherwise we're just going to get a nice free $5. When you're submitting your questions, please check the spreadsheet first. Once that's up and running, check the FAQs on bumbleking.com. Check the last couple episodes. We list the questions there. Make sure we haven't already answered them. And if your question kind of boils down to what were your plans for this era of the Archie books, whatever it is, wait for Lost Hedgehog Tales. It is still on hold, but things are moving that I hope move quickly. So maybe things will change before the world ends.
We'll see about that. All right, let's jump into the priority Q&A. Let's get started off with one from our good buddy Crooker. Outside of Metal Sonic, or Shard by extension, who is your favorite Sonic robot seen in the games? I've always found the potential for the other Sonic bots to have stories of their own, unique from Metal Sonic, interesting, and wanted to know if you guys have any pet favorites.
Not really. Gasp in shock, I know, since I mine every ounce of lore and minutia for story content, but none of the other Robot Sonics really have the same pizzazz that Metal Sonic does.
Yeah.
If we're just into the games, because if we had the comic iterations, there's it's across multiple titles, but like Silver Sonic's kind of neat in that whole big clunky thing, but he's kind of a chump. Mecha Sonic was a neat Easter egg in Sonic Adventure, but there's nothing to him aside from that. The Mecha Sonic from the Game Gear titles, it was fun to see him in Mania, but aside from being weird looking, not really a lot to go with. Now, if you want to expand it into all the robotic doubles, I would love to see Metal Knuckles return in some incarnation.
Yes.
Please.
Yep.
I mean, Tails Doll too, because of the, slurpy, spooky pasta, whatever. But Metal Knuckles, I super dig that design and wish he'd show up.
Yeah. What about Mecha Sonic from Sonic and Knuckles?
Yeah, okay. That was a really, really cool design.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like
it's a bit of a bit of a rehash of just Metal Sonic.
He was a better version of Silver Sonic when you get down to the moveset and everything.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
He went super, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and thinking back on the head design, I almost wonder if he's kind of the inspiration for Metal Overlord.
Probably, yeah. It's very similar.
Yeah, okay. He'd be kind of neat to see come back, but where Metal Sonic is that kind of silent killer enforcer, I feel like Sonic 3 Mecha Sonic would need more to him. I don't know. Maybe I can mind that. Of course, he may be a classic-only character. Or he could be dead, considering that Knuckles blew him up real good.
Well, this is Eggman. He can rebuild him. He has the technology.
I suppose.
All right, our next question comes from Andrew D. Is stuff from the Sonic movie like Longclaw off limits, or has it not even been brought up yet? Speaking of which, is there anything from the movies that you would like to use? You don't have to say what if you can't. And what are your thoughts on it getting a sequel? I'm feeling the hype.
I'm assuming all movie content is off limits, just from experience. Styx was featured with modern Sonic material we can't do right now. Back in the old days, Dr. Nego was off limits, and he was part of the main canon, so ancillary, but still. So, yeah, I'm assuming movie style is no touchy. Longclaw would be neat to include, but she doesn't look like a Sonic character. So, I'm not really itching to touch any of the movie stuff. I am kind of interested in seeing what they do with that universe as they expand upon it with the sequel. I mean, right out of the gate, you have to change Tails' backstory because Sonic wasn't there to be his inspiration growing up. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic. If Tyson Hess is involved still, because he was kind of there he was kind of one of the factors that got us the echidnas and Pachamama included in the early scenes. If someone like him or someone else who is close to the franchise who can put that kind of input in, I would appreciate it. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be beholden to everything that came before. It's doing its own thing, which is cool. It did it well, so let's see what they do with it. Just don't go too far afield. I'm looking at you, crazy lizard wizard.
Yeah, hopefully they build on what they've established without getting too off track. So, as far as it getting a sequel, I'm not particularly surprised. I mean, it was extremely successful, and they set it up for a sequel hook. So it's like, yeah, of course it's getting a sequel. It's not like the Super Mario Brothers movie where, of course, it's getting a sequel until it comes out, and it's like, oh, it flopped and it sucked. Well, it sucked to most people. I love it, but I'm a weirdo, so. Anyway. Next question comes from John B. Was Norse mythology an influence for Drogune? And as a quick follow-up, what were other influences for Drogune?
Definitely some heavy Norse influences here and there, with the realm specifically being named Heim as a suffix, and there's other stuff that will come up where you're going to go, I know that from Norse mythology, that probably bodes poorly for our heroes. But Drogune overall is kind of, I guess, a culmination of just stuff I like. It's a little bit of Skies of Arcadia, it's a little bit of Lord of the Rings, it's a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of Cowboy Bebop, a little bit of Wakfu. I'm sure someone can look at it and say, oh, here's clearly the Sonic influences, although this is my escape from Sonic. I don't dislike Sonic. It is my career. I enjoy the Little Blue Hedgehog. But sometimes you need something other than Sonic. And that is what Drogune is. So, yeah, it's a hodgepodge of a lot of things I've liked across various media and distilling what I liked about those and just playing with it.
Yeah, so far I'm getting kind of like a Skies of Arcadia in space vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, not to diminish and boil everything down to just one phrase, but like, I guess if you were like the elevator pitch, I don't know, that would be something you could throw in there. Like, yeah, it's Skies of Arcadia in space. It's
also kind of to a degree, a twist on some of the fantasy and sci-fi tropes that I am not particularly fond of.
Yeah,
like. We'll get into this later down the line someday, but how Ajay are basically me thumbing my nose at Tolkien elves, and the Droff in general are just one big eye roll towards the Asari out of Mass Effect, but they have to be able to stand on their own, not just on the principles of, here's me critiquing people who have succeeded in
life. You act like you haven't succeeded.
Not enough. Always more.
Okay.
Higher, must climb, must reach new peaks.
Well then, let's continue on with our final priority question this week. It comes from Diane W. I used to like Sonic Amy, but now I see the relationship as abusive and unhealthy. What's worse, Amy's obsessing over Sonic is what Sonic Amy fans like about the pairing. Amy's behavior is not a good influence on girls. Think about it. If Sega does decide to make the pairing canon, they'd be sending a terrible message to girls everywhere, which is stalking and obsessing over their heroes will be rewarded. What do you personally think of this?
You're not wrong. I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for them to officially link Sonic and Amy. I mean, it's kind of a foregone conclusion, but part of the trope of their pairing is the perpetual chase.
Right.
I think the argument against, though, is what era of Amy are you talking about? Like, if you're talking Sonic X, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Battle, yeah, that's not that is not a healthy way to treat anyone on Amy's behalf. She was a little crazy. I've said before, I kind of enjoy that era of Amy in that she has a personality. It's not necessarily the most positive one, but I liked the kind of girly coquette who also will smash your face in with a hammer. There's a nice dichotomy there. It's a little more than just the, I don't know, watered down that we've gotten since. But at the same time, one of the notes I got when writing Sonic number 2 for IDW was to dial back Amy's outward affections towards Sonic. I think they got the memo, and they are calming her down.
Right.
I think she needs something to replace that manic energy. The core element of she is a optimistic and helpful individual is great. That's a fantastic foundation for the character, but it needs a little more pizzazz. It needs something if she's going to be on the same level as Sonic and Knuckles and Tails, because that's the Power Four, and I feel like she's kind of lagging behind. But I'm rambling at this point. I think, Diane, that you are correct if you look at that. Oh shoot, what is that, like 2010s era?
It was mid 2000s. Would have been like
2000s.
Yeah, early to mid 2000s would have been like Sonic Heroes, Sonic Battle.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that would not be a good relationship to endorse. But Amy has changed since then.
Right.
Honestly, if we had her more like the Sonic Adventure era, maybe that would be the nice little middle ground where she's, vivacious and she kind of jumps in headfirst into trouble to save people, and maybe she can't always handle it on her own, but darn it, she tries. It's just, we need to make sure that she can handle it on her own, because otherwise it's that perpetual damsel in distress thing, and that's been outdated for the past century.
She was still a bit obsessed in Sonic Adventure, though, too. I mean...
Yeah.
But she's also running away from a giant robot at the same time, so,
I mean, for me, her arc in Adventure is more than the sum of its parts.
Right.
She plays the damsel in distress, and she's infatuated for most of her story, and then she gets cornered by Zero, and she just takes him on head on and says, okay, I'm coming away from this self-reliant. I'm going to look after myself. She still cares for Sonic, but she's going to be her own girl. And that is great. I wish that had been where she went from there.
Yeah, they did a bit of a regression.
She still has a bit of it in SA2, where she had a more active role, but I like to think of the scene where she's dangling the key card in front of Sonic in the cell, saying, I'll let you out if you go on a date. And he's like, no. She's like, darn, thought I had you that time. And lets him out. I'm hoping... I always took that as playful.
Yeah.
Flirtatious. She wasn't going to actually leave him in a jail cell. That was just her messing with him. Maybe, please. Can we go with that route? And then we get to Sonic Heroes, where she's like, I'm going to blow you so I can carry you off to a cave like a caveman. It's like, too far. Back it up.
I like Boom Amy. She's
Boom Amy's all right.
She's fairly, compared to the rest of the characters, she's kind of like, I guess she's a straight man in the group, really, kind of.
Yeah.
So, which is funny, but it still works for her. She's a bit more, or she's a bit more low key, I suppose, rather than being completely obsessive. But they still do have some fun kind of poking that, though. Like, there's a few instances I remember where she does seem like she's still kind of obsessed with Sonic, but she doesn't act on it, and they don't show it much. So,
like the giant life-size stuffed replica of Sonic that she just happens to have for no particular reason that isn't creepy at all. What?
Of course not. Man, that show is weird.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's weird, but it's awesome. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's great. Oh man. So, I pretty much agree with everything you say. It's a bit of a rough characterization of her for a little while there, but I feel like they've gotten better, and they're kind of working to figure out what they want Amy to be. So I appreciate the the effort and the changes that they're making. So here's hoping they keep that up.
Yep.
All right. Well, we do have an ad this week from Patreon, one of our lovely patrons, who's decided to advertise us, which is very funny. I appreciate it. But it's very funny.
Yes, Daniel H. continues to be just incredibly gracious. I don't know why you're so gracious to us. What have we done to deserve you, Daniel? But here we go. Daniel says, "Hello all. I hope everyone is doing well in these crazy times. As you know, we can support the BumbleKast through Patreon, but did you know they also have their own Ko-fi page? Click the link provided and throw a few dollars their way. Every little bit helps. Thanks, guys. Be safe and be well, everyone." So thank you, Daniel, for paying us so that we can read an advertisement for us. It's meta as all get out, and I'm tickled by it.
Yes. That's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. You can get your Patreon, you can get your priority questions answered over there too. So, hey.
Yes, you can. And if you don't feel like it, that's perfectly fine. Consider maybe donating to one of the other causes that are so needy right now in the various Black Lives Matter and Pride organizations. So,
yes.
Put your money somewhere.
Yes. Not in your mouth, though. That's gross.
So
they say put your money where your mouth is, and like that's disgusting. You know where that money's been? No, you don't want to know where some of that money's been. It's disgusting.
It's been in other people's mouths.
Probably. Gross. Anyway, let's get into the standard Q&A. This one is a bit of a lengthy one from Kohana C. As last year, I was planning to somehow send Sega an idea for a Sonic story I made, specifically one that centers around Team Dark, but not just as an idea. I've spent the past 2 years learning 3D animation on my own. I've made concept art, storyboards, scripts, a few animations, and even a teaser animation. Even the models were all made from scratch. I was desperate to separate myself from other fan ideas by striving to make a compelling story. That being said, I already know that from the Sega side, they're not allowed to accept fan ideas for legal reasons. I'd seen the official website's policy only about a year into this project, and I've heard from Miss Katie as well. I don't know who that is.
She's the current head of PR and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Second only to Aaron Weber.
Okay. There are times when I remember this and give up all hope, but for some reason, despite everything, I can't bring myself to let it go. Sometimes I wonder why I've been so stupid to continue working on it. I feel like all my efforts are in vain. Quite literally, I don't think I'm able to give up, almost as if my brain isn't letting me. And so with a few ideas on where to go from here, I would like to ask for your help and advice. Initially, I thought I would send a collection of CGI animations to Sega that would be the cutscenes for my story, but I've realized that realistically this wouldn't happen, even if by a miracle my story was accepted. My only plan now is to somehow catch their attention, perhaps by making animated short stories and becoming a part of the official team. Maybe then I could share my idea in a presentation of some sort, but I still feel lost and worried that I can't achieve this. Thus, that brings me here. I want to thank you again for taking the time to read this email and for listening to my personal story.
All right, Hannah. Number one, do not feel stupid for pursuing your passions.
No, never.
The fact that you built your models from scratch is impressive, and that you have taught yourself all this to create your vision is incredible. So don't feel stupid at all. Give yourself a pat on the back. Cut yourself some slack. You've done some great stuff. I haven't seen any of it, and for legal reasons I can't, but the effort has been made, and that should be applauded by itself. Going to be completely straight with you. There is no chance that you're going to be able to pitch this story to Sega. This is coming from the guy who's been doing stories and running them past Sega for over 10 years, nigh upon 15 at this point. They have their stories that they're going to tell, and if you want to do something on the side that's kind of affiliated, you have to get it approved. So whatever your vision is, unless you can enter Sega itself, climb your way to the top of the heap, and kind of become the head of the brand, I don't see that happening. At the same time, if you are so inclined to do so, please feel free to prove me wrong. Like, if you keep at it and you manage to, break down barriers that I have not and achieve something that I thought impossible, I will quite happily eat crow and say, wow, I was a jerk, and you were right. I'm just saying it's going to be an uphill battle no matter what. What I would advise is don't try so much as to get in the door officially as to just get attention. We're in an era where a lot of folks who grew up on Sonic and have become professionals in their field are getting noticed and picked up. Christian Whitehead and his team with Sonic Mania, Kieran Gates and Naborak, who are doing official art for the Twitter and other promotional material. All fans, all who became programmers and artists in their own right but maintained their passion for Sonic, put material out there showing what they could do, and then were picked up from there. So what I would suggest to you would be to continue your animation projects, put them out there, but put them out for public consumption. Build up the fan base for yourself so that people point to you on your behalf and say, look at what you are doing. This person should do more than just fan stuff. Bring them on an official capacity. You could work your way towards building your portfolio so that perhaps you're picked up by Marza Studios, who does a lot of CG work for Sega and Sonic material, and you could that could be your inlet. Maybe you complete your animations, show how competent you are, how impressive and varied your skills are, so that Marza will pick you up if they are hiring. From there, you get put on some game cutscene project, you impress the higher-ups, you get to shake Kazuka-san's hand and, I don't know, overthrow him and put on the crown of Sonic and achieve the highest level of perfection. I don't really know how that would work. And I'm getting silly as I ramble. Point being, don't make your focus catching the attention of the professionals, because they are super busy doing what they're doing. What you need to do is hone your own skills so that you can do Sonic or anything else and keep that passion alive in your own heart, so that when you have put in the work and you've garnered the attention and your lucky break comes, you're ready for it. But don't pin all your hopes and dreams on getting this one vision, this one thing to happen, because concessions will have to be made. You'll have to find middle grounds here and there. But if you are working on something that eventually gets you into the realm of what you want to do, that's the victory. So, Too Long Didn't Read version, continue to hone your craft, put your stuff out there for other people to enjoy, and work towards your own future while still keeping that passion project in your heart.
Alrighty. I think there's some good advice in there.
Somewhere, if you dig it deep enough.
No, it's all good. PC the Unicorn is next. Is Silver a tricky character to write, given the fact that he's very overpowered and is arguably one of the strongest characters among the Sonic cast?
He can be, yeah. One of the things I have to fall back on is using his characterization to not nerf him, but counteract his absolutely insane God mode powers.
Right.
He should be able to end any fight immediately. Given just what he does in 06 alone, he should be unstoppable. But if you keep him distracted, or if you get his temper up so he's not thinking clearly, or he's naive, you can tell there's something written on the bottom of his boot and he just spins in 0G trying to see it. That's how you get him. Or you can kind of build off of the Sonic 06 fight when you're playing as Sonic against Silver, and that was a nightmare to figure out. But basically, the trick to that fight was to get Silver to reach the maximum he could hold with his TK powers so that he could grab you, and then getting in for a quick bop. And that seems to be more of a Sonic is fast enough to do that sort of thing. It's kind of harder to apply to everything else. And sometimes, frankly, I kind of have to ignore what he can do, because he can teleport.
Right.
That alone should put him above every single threat there is. And he can sometimes seem to shoot TK bolts, so he has range in addition to the psychic units. it's a bit nuts. I kind of wish he would be nerfed just a tiny bit, but I don't know. I don't make the rules.
Alrighty. Now our next question comes from Brody M. What will you be planning for Sonic's 30th anniversary in the comics? And if Sega were ever to do a Sonic Adventure 3 or Sonic Chronicles 2, what would they be about?
Shoot, when is Sonic's 30th anniversary?
Next year? I think it's next year. Next June. I think it's a year from now. Because it would have been 1991.
Can't talk about anything that we've got coming up because that would be spoilerific. Sonic Adventure 3,
It'll be Big's big fishing adventure.
I can only speculate that Sonic and his friends will go on an adventure and they will fight some kind of ancient evil that has to be fought with the Chaos Emeralds at the very end. There's a big monster, and there's some kind of tragic past that filled it full of anger or something. There will not be a Sonic Chronicles 2. I can guarantee you that.
And if there is, the soundtrack will be cheap, crappy MIDIs ripped off the internet and thrown into a really bad sound engine.
It should just be kazoo.
It would have sounded better. Yeah. Next question comes from Bowler Hat Wearer. When it comes to Sonic's world, how does it look like with education? Are there public schools in the world, or is it more of a sort of homeschooled system?
That is a very interesting question. To look at it, I guess you would have to look at the socioeconomic structures of Sonic's world in general, because the education system is part of a larger network. And we know, because I've been told, that there is no money on Sonic's world. There is no form of currency or land ownership. So that right there kind of skews how you're going to perceive their world.
That doesn't make any sense. I can't wrap my head around that. I'm sorry.
Never mind that it's contradicted in the games, but we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the education. We don't really know what their society is functionally anyway. Sonic Forces shows large urban populations, so you would imagine that there's some kind of structural institution for education, but what do people do with their days? There are no jobs to be filled unless it's voluntary, and they're doing it for the general good of everyone, in which case education would fall under that, I suppose, and they're just making sure kids aren't dumb. It is a much more complicated question than I think any of us would have expected on the surface, and I don't have a satisfactory answer for you.
And it's so weird. I don't quite get it. Like, I mean, and yeah, as you said, it's been contradicted. So, so people, like, they have houses, but they don't, like, actually own their houses? Is that, like, the idea?
I don't know.
Like,
I really don't know.
Like, you know, you have Tangle's Village that you've shown in the comics before is like her house, just a common house that people can go in and out of and nobody cares. Are all the houses like that? What is going on? How does this work?
Maybe it is. Maybe Sonic's world works on like absolute perfect communism where everyone respects each other's autonomy.
Maybe. And here comes big bad capitalism in the form of Eggman. Where everyone's a robot slave to the job that they're assigned to do. Man, wow, I didn't realize Sonic was such an allegory for real life. Huh. Intriguing.
I remember messing with somebody once. I may have covered it on the show once before, saying that Sonic is actually a propaganda tool for capitalism and the American way, because his nemesis is Robotnik, which is founded off of a Russian word.
Yes,
who wants to bring everyone together under his red banner of uniform, lack of individualism. And the one individual who does stand against him is red, white, and blue, and he is maintained by a gold standard with a whole bunch of rings. Clearly, Sonic is U.S. capitalism fighting Russian communism.
Oh, okay. So it's the opposite.
Yes.
Dang.
It's very deep, Kyle.
I am, wow.
Had you gone to Sonic's moneyless free education system, you would have learned that.
my mind has been blown like twice now. It could go either way. Wow. The Sonic is so open to interpretation. All right.
Like it's a bunch of very thin tropes strung together that can be interpreted any way you want them to.
Almost. What? No. Never. We have one last question, Ian, and apparently it's for me.
Yeah, so I should read this one.
Sure.
Big Sonic fan Patrick asks, Kyle, what was it like setting up a podcast? Are there any tips you can give people starting up a podcast of their own?
Don't start a podcast. No, I'm joking. You can start a podcast.
We don't need
just no, that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that there's a whole deluge of podcasts out there right now, especially with everybody at home and with nothing to do.
Again, you also have the largest uninterrupted board audience. So.
Exactly, yeah. But no. I say that as a joke. What was it like to set up a podcast? The thing is that to get to a state where I am like relatively satisfied with it and in the current state that it's in, it took me a few years. I started out with I started out with the microphone built into my computer's monitor. And this was back in like 2003, where the monitor I had was a giant CRT box. And the microphone in it was a hot garbage. So, and then from there, I moved on to a headset for a little while, a very crappy wireless headset. Keep in mind, this was 2003, so wireless then is not quite like it was now. Audio quality is very, very finicky. And then from there, I just kind of did a lot of research and built up a sort of a very adequate but basic setup, good enough for recording at home. And then from there, I pretty much just was like, I listened to other things. I was inspired by other video game music shows and other radio shows. I used to listen to a lot of radio when I was a kid, so I was kind of inspired by the hosts on the DJs on local radio and stuff like that. Things have changed since then. Obviously, there's a lot fewer of actual local DJs and things like that anymore. So, but that's mainly kind of where I started with. And then I got listening to some college radio stuff, which is kind of essentially what I ended up kind of modeling after. Although I was the hard thing about the shows that I listened to versus what I was doing was that I was only by myself pretty much. While the shows I was listening to had big groups in studio, and so they had a lot of back and forth banter, and it's a lot harder to do back and forth banter when you're, by yourself. So
I take that as a challenge, sir.
Yeah. So, and also back when I started, there was just a lot less, there were a lot fewer resources on doing online radio and a lot of, and podcasts. As far as I know, I think they weren't even a thing when I started. Like the term podcast didn't even exist. It wasn't long after. So, no. It wasn't long after I started. So this is like 2003-ish. So, but it took a while before podcast like entered the common zeitgeist and became a bit more like people understood what a podcast was. Like it was a while. Like what the heck is a podcast? What? So, right now there are a lot more resources. There is a lot more equipment that's a lot cheaper and a lot higher quality than it used to be. So I would suggest, do some research. Don't necessarily go for the obvious, like, most expensive equipment to start off. Because, first of all, you want to make sure that you enjoy doing a podcast. and you want to make sure that you have like a good idea for one. You want to have something there, a little bit of substance, not just, you spend an hour just talking to yourself about nothing. Sometimes that can work for some podcasts if you're funny enough, but you have to have, maybe like you could fill a niche, or you just something you're really passionate about, something you enjoy a lot and you want to talk about more, and you're good at talking about it. That is something important, I would say. Yeah, definitely don't go for the most expensive equipment. Don't be like, yeah, I need a Shure SM7B because it's a $400 microphone and it's the best of the best, and it's what Joe Rogan uses, and I need a Go XLR soundboard because that's $500, and that's what all of the best, biggest streamers and podcasters use. You don't need all that. You can get by on a much more modest budget. Like my total equipment cost here, not including the computer itself, is, I don't know, roughly $200. And you can get by with even less than that. You don't need the compressor I have, for example. So you could probably do like 150 or 100 even. So I would say go start small, make sure you like it, and make sure you have, and if you have an audience and if they're enjoying what you're doing, even if it's a small audience, and then maybe you can build up from there. Go through kind of a process. Don't just like get the best of the best and then realize like, oh, I hate doing podcasts, or, oh, I don't have time to do podcasts, or I don't have the ambition. I thought I would, but I don't. And now I have $900 worth of equipment sitting on my desk doing nothing and collecting dust. So, and that's what I think that's what a lot of these quarantine podcasts are going to end up being, is they're going to end up just like doing a couple episodes and then just stopping. And so they'll have wasted a whole bunch of money on extremely high-end equipment that they didn't need. So start small, start modest, and build up from there. And hopefully you can be successful.
Kyle, that was all great advice.
What did I miss?
You have me kicking myself because here we are 3 months into quarantine and we didn't do a Bumble quarantine styled episode. The joke was right there. All you said was very important, insightful stuff. But we've missed a joke, Kyle. We missed a joke.
Well, we made it now, so we're good. Welcome to the Bumble quarantine. We're in quarantine and we're maybe feeling okay. I don't know. As the world burns down around us.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, switch. Crazy going slowly are we? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch. Now that the show is done, Kyle, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can head on over to Twitter, and you can find me at KyleJCRB. You can also find me on kngi.org, where you can find archived episodes of the BumbleKast in MP3 downloadable format for your listening pleasure, along with many other shows, including the other show I do about video game music called Nitro Game Injection. That streams live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen to it over there at kngi.org/listen. There's also the 24/7 music stream going on over there. You can tune in and hear some awesome tunes, and maybe occasionally you hear a rerun of an episode of various shows, including the BumbleKast. So be sure to tune in for that and check the schedule. What about you, Ian?
Follow me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. Go to my personal website, bumbleking.com. That has a schedule for all release dates, and now that books are actually coming out again, you can read up on that, and I'll update it as soon as I know his stuff is coming out. Also, check out my original comic series with the Sonic veteran Adam Bryce Thomas, Drogune. That's DROGUNE.com. We're also on Webtoon if you want to subscribe for free and read there as well.
All right, and don't forget to follow the show at BumbleKast on Twitter. Email us at bumblecast@yahoo.com. And, of course, you can also listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and, of course, YouTube.
If you have some money left over after you've supported all the worthy causes and want to spend it on us, head over to the Bumble store at shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble store. And we have a number of designs that you can put on a number of products that you can put in your hands and sometimes your mouth.
Sure. You can put whatever you want in your mouth. Just understand that it may not end well for you. BumbleKast Gaming live streams are on Twitch at twitch.tv/BumbleKastGaming. You'll find those on Wednesdays and Fridays at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So, midnight, but whatever, it's fine. And then Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So keep an eye on Twitter for announcements. Just recently, I played through Sonic CD in one sitting and got all the time stones and made a good future in everything. So I'm feeling pretty happy about that, actually. I had never actually done that before, so it was pretty cool. So be sure to tune in for that.
Before we wrap up, we're going to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show. And I'm going to test my lung capacity by reading these names myself. Here we go. Big thank you to Daniel H., Salute Your Cat, Alex P., Connell T., Nathan S., Crooker, Blue Title Gamer, Coupling Crew, Andrew D., Chris A., John B., Diane W., James K., Jennifer R., Torchbound, Jennifer H., Lisa M., Owen B.D., Preston M., Frederick, Digama F. Wow, Final Neil, Justin S., Silly String, Takaro, Scruffy Matt, Lee H.K., Overthinking Films, Don B., John M., Chevelle, Mike B., Diz Den, Samuel P., Justin G., Sen Fritz, Dave M., and Sam Cybercat.
Wow, you did it! Awesome.
And my throat now feels like sandpaper.
Oh boy. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this week's BumbleKast. We'll see you next week. Holy crap.
Yeah, we will.
We're doing weekly.
It's weird.
I know.
Have a good one, everybody.
See y'all later.
Now he's just grabbing dinner. Should we give him just a half second to come back?
No. Forget that guy.
Okay. All right. I realize now, are they grabbing it from the takeout guy who came to the door, or they've run out to grab it, or...
I don't know. We could give him a couple minutes because he was expecting 15. He had. I'm kidding. We can wait a minute.
How do we pronounce your freaking name, Sonny? You are not a thing placed in games. You're a new patron. You're here in the chat. And we are so happy about that, Sonny. It's so true. We're glad you're here. Damn it, messed up at the end.
You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. The irony is that this isn't much shorter than a normal show.
I was just about to say, we went